That sound, instantly recognizable, isn't it? For some, it's the sweet symphony of childhood discovery. For others, it's a phantom echo, a chilling reminder of music class, a cacophony of screeching plastic and misplaced fingers. It's the sound of 1,000 tiny, uncoordinated breaths, all attempting to wrestle a melody from a simple tube. It is, of course, the humble, or perhaps not so humble, recorder. But seriously, what is this instrument? And why, oh why, did every single primary school across the Western world seem to possess a bottomless pit of them, churning out generation after generation of aspiring and often excruciatingly bad musicians? Today we're diving deep into the surprisingly rich, often maligned, and undeniable universal history of the recorder. Get ready to have your preconceptions and your eardrums challenged. Forget everything you think you know about cheap plastic school instruments, because the story of the recorder doesn't begin in a dusty classroom cupboard. It begins centuries ago, in the echoing halls of castles and the quiet chambers of the Baroque masters. The recorder's lineage stretches back further than you might imagine. It belongs to the family of what are known as fipple flutes, instruments where the air is directed by a block or a fipple onto a sharp edge, splitting the air and creating a sound. Think about blowing across the top of a bottle. It's a similar, albeit less refined principle. These types of flutes, made from bone, wood, or reed, are among the very oldest musical instruments known to humanity, with archaeological finds dating back tens of thousands of years. But the recorder, as we recognize its direct ancestors, started to truly emerge in Europe during the medieval period. Early depictions show instruments clearly resembling our modern recorder, being played in various settings. By the Renaissance, it was firmly established as a respectable and versatile instrument, enjoyed by both common folk and royalty. Henry VIII, for example, was an avid collector and player, owning a staggering 76 recorders, making him perhaps the earliest known recorder enthusiast, or hoarder. The name recorder itself is a bit of an etymological puzzle. One popular theory suggests it comes from the Middle English word recorden, meaning to sing or practice a tune. It also meant to recall or to commit to memory. It's thought that the instrument was used to record or practice melodies, perhaps even to teach birds to sing specific tunes, though honestly, I pity the bird that had to endure that kind of tuition. Another theory links to the Old French recorder, meaning to recount or to relate, hinting at its narrative potential. Regardless of the exact origin, the instrument was clearly seen as a tool of musical exploration and expression. It was during the Baroque era, roughly from the early 17th to the mid 18th century, that a recorder truly experienced its golden age. Composers like Johann Sebastian Bach, George Friedrich Handel, and George Philip Telemann wrote extensively for the instrument, often featuring it in their concertos, chamber music, and oratorios. At this time, recorders were typically made from high-quality woods like boxwood, ebony, or even ivory, meticulously crafted to produce rich, mellow, and incredibly nuanced tones. They were played by virtuosos in courts and concert halls, capable of breathtaking agility and expressive depth. Imagine for a moment the recorders of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 4. Soaring above the strings, their sound articulate and bright, without a single squeak in earshot. It was a far cry from the plastic monstrosity you painstakingly attempted to play hot cross buns on. But then, like all good things, its mainstream popularity began to wane. By the late 18th century, the transverse flute, the side-blown flute we commonly see in orchestras today, started to gain prominence. The transverse flute offered a greater dynamic range, a wider tonal palette, and could more easily project its sound over the increasingly large orchestras of the classical and romantic periods. The recorder, with its softer voice and more limited dynamic capabilities, was gradually relegated to obscurity, becoming largely a historical curiosity. For over a century, it lay dormant, a forgotten relic of a bygone musical era. So how did this ancient, once revered musical instrument, rescued from the dusty archives of musical history, find its way to the hands of millions of bewildered elementary school children? The answer lies in a fascinating story of musical revival and educational innovation that began in the early 20th century. The first crucial step was the early music revival movement, championed by figures like Arnold Dolmetsch. Dolmetsch, a French-born British instrument maker and musician, was passionate about rediscovering and recreating historical instruments, including the recorder. He believes strongly in bringing these instruments back to life, allowing audiences and players to experience music as it was originally intended. His family began making recorders in the early 1900s, helping to re-establish the instrument's place as a serious musical tool. However, the real catalyst for its ubiquity in schools was the work of Karl Orff, the German composer and educator, and its Orff-Schulwerk approach to music education. Orff, along with his colleague Genield Kateman, developed a method that emphasized active, hands-on music making, using rhythm, movement, speech, and specially designed instruments. Central to this approach was the recorder. Why the recorder? While several compelling reasons converge to make it the perfect candidate for mass music education. Firstly, cost effectiveness. Once the Dolmetsch family and others re-established modern designs, it wasn't long before manufacturers realized the potential for mass production. Enter plastic. The advent of injection molded plastic meant that recorders could be produced by the million incredibly cheaply. A school could purchase dozens, or even hundreds, for the price of a single orchestral instrument. This made music education accessible, even in financially constrained public school systems. It's why your school probably had a whole bin of them, often with faint inscriptions like, "Property of Miss Higgins, 1987. Secondly, ease of sound production and gentle learning curve. Unlike a violin, which can sound like a tortured cat for months, or a brass instrument which requires specific embouchure development, a recorder produces sound almost immediately. Blow into it, cover a hole, and voila, a note. Instant gratification is crucial for young learners, preventing early frustration. You can start with just 2 or 3 notes, like B, A, and G, the triumphant sequence for hot cross buns, and gradually introduce more. This progressive learning system makes it ideal for building foundational skills. Thirdly, portability and hygiene. Recorders are small, lightweight, and easy to transport. Plastic ones are also easy to clean, an obvious advantage when dealing with a classroom full of germ-sharing children. Fourthly, and perhaps most importantly, it teaches fundamental music concepts beautifully. Playing the recorder requires breath control, learning to blow steadily, not too hard, not too soft. Finger dexterity and coordination, covering holes precisely, developing fine motor skills. Pitch recognition and intonation, learning to hear if a note is in tune. Rhythm, following the beats and duration of notes. Music reading, translating dots on a page into physical actions and sounds. It's a mini orchestra in a box. A classroom full of recorders immediately creates an ensemble, allowing children to experience the joy of making music together, listening to each other, and understanding harmony, even in its simplest forms. It democratizes music. Every child, regardless of natural talent, can participate. It was, and still is, a gateway instrument, often the first step on a lifelong musical journey for many. So when we say every school owns 400 of them, it's not much of an exaggeration. They were bought in bulk, distributed en masse. Some found their way home, others languished in forgotten drawers, waiting to be rediscovered by the next cohort of wide-eyed musical recruits. Now, before we delve into the good, the bad, and the truly virtuosic aspects of the recorder, I want to hear from you. Did you play the recorder in school? What was your go-to song? Were you a maestro or more of a musical menace? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to What Is for more deep dives, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We love creating these for you, and your support helps us keep the music playing, hopefully without too many squeaks. Alright, let's break down the pros and cons of this unassuming wooden or plastic wonder. The pros. Beyond the practical reasons for its presence in schools, the recorder offers some profound educational benefits. 1. Foundational skills. As mentioned, it's a fantastic tool for developing basic musical literacy. It lays the groundwork for understanding melody, harmony, and rhythm, skills transferable to any other instrument. 2. Fine motor skills. The precision required to cover the holes and move the fingers quickly significantly enhances fine motor control and hand-eye coordination. 3. Discipline and patience. Learning an instrument, any instrument, teaches perseverance. The recorder, despite its initial ease, requires practice and dedication to move beyond simple tunes. 4. Ensemble experience. Playing with others is a vital part of musical development. Recorder groups teach children to listen, blend, and contribute to a collective sound. It fosters teamwork. 5. Affordable access. For many, the recorder is their first and sometimes only exposure to playing a musical instrument. It democratizes music education, offering a chance for every child to experience the joy of creation, regardless of their family's economic background. 6. Appreciation for music. Learning to play, even simplified versions of classical pieces, can spark a lifelong appreciation for music and the arts. But then, there are the cons. And oh, there are cons. 1. The sound. Let's be honest, in the hands of a beginner, especially a classroom full of them, the recorder can be a sonic assault. The shrill, piercing tones, the accidental squeaks, the attempts to blow too hard resulting in an ear-splitting shriek. It's enough to test the patience of a saint, let alone a music teacher. It's often described as sounding like a choir of dying cats, or a flock of enraged geese. And sometimes, that's just being generous. 2. Reputation. Because of its ubiquitous presence in elementary schools, the recorder has gained a rather unfortunate reputation as a child's toy or a not serious instrument. This stigma can make it difficult for serious players to be taken seriously, and it often overshadows the instrument's true capabilities. 3. Limited dynamics for beginners. While professional players can achieve remarkable dynamic nuance, a beginner's plastic recorder tends to have two settings: loud and very loud. This can make nuance expression challenging. 4. Quality control. The cheapest plastic recorders, while cost-effective, often suffer from pure intonation and inconsistent tone, making it harder for students to produce pleasant sounds and discouraging them from the process. 5. Teacher frustration. Imagine being a music teacher, trying to guide 25 energetic children through Mary Had a Little Lamb, while simultaneously battling the sheer volume and unpredictable nature of the instruments. It's a heroic feat. So for all its undeniable benefits, the collective memory of the school recorder often comes with a wince, a shudder, and perhaps a ringing in the ears. But what if I told you that beyond the chaotic school halls, the recorder is an instrument of incredible beauty and sophistication when played by a world-class virtuoso. Indeed, the recorder's journey didn't end with its decline in the classical era, nor its current story limited to primary school music classes. Its revival in the 20th century also saw it reclaim its place in serious musical performance. Remember those Baroque masters? Their compositions are still the bread and butter for many professional recorder players today. Telemann's recorder concertos and fantasias, Bach's Brandenburg concertos, and Handel's recorder sonatas are all staples of the repertoire, demanding immense skill, breath control, and musicality. When performed by a master, these pieces revealed the recorder's true voice, a clear, pure, agile, and surprisingly expressive instrument. But it's not just historical music. Contemporary composers have also embraced the recorder, writing challenging, innovative works that push its technical and expressive boundaries. You'll find modern recorder players performing in everything from avant-garde classical pieces to jazz improvisations and folk music from around the world. Who are these modern maestros? One of the most famous is Michaela Petri, a Danish recorder virtuoso who has almost single-handedly elevated the instrument's profile. You might have seen her performing with orchestras worldwide, her fingers flying across the holes of her wooden instruments, producing sounds that defy any shrill school toy stereotypes. She's recorded dozens of albums, showcasing the recorder in both its historical context and in new, experimental settings. Then there's Piers Adams, a British recorder player known for his passionate and often theatrical performances, as well as his adventurous programming and blending of Baroque with world music and contemporary pieces. And Maurice Steiger, a Swiss recorder player renowned for his fiery interpretations of Baroque music and its infectious stage presence. These are not merely academics, they are rock stars of the recorder, pushing the instrument into new realms of performance and challenging audiences to reconsider its potential. If you've only ever encountered the recorder in a classroom setting, I implore you to seek out the recordings of these musicians. Prepare to be astounded. You'll hear intricate counterpoint, soaring melodies, and dazzling technical passages that will redefine what you thought was possible on that plastic flute. The tone on a finely crafted wooden instrument in the hands of a professional is warm, woody, and full of character, far removed from the sharp, reedy sound of a cheap plastic model. From its ancient origins as a simple flipple flute, through its golden age in the Baroque courts, its near extinction, and its improbable resurrection in the hands of countless schoolchildren, the recorder has had a truly remarkable journey. It is simultaneously a respected historical instrument, a sophisticated vehicle for the virtuoso performance, and the most accessible entry point into the world of music for millions of children globally. It may have inflicted some minor auditory trauma during your formative years, but the school recorder was, and remains, an unsung hero of music education. It taught you about rhythm, about melody, about the joy and the discipline of making music. It might have been your first instrument, that little plastic key that unlocked a lifelong love of music, or at least a greater appreciation for the silence after Ode to Joy finally ended. So next time you hear that familiar, almost nostalgic sound, perhaps from a passing schoolyard or a flickering through from a forgotten memory, remember the recorder's full story. Remember its pedigree, its purpose, and its enduring, if sometimes ear-splitting legacy. It's more than just a school instrument. It's a living, breathing piece of musical history, constantly recording new melodies and patiently waiting for the next generation to pick it up and hopefully play it in tune. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of the recorder. What other common, everyday objects or phenomena would you like us to explore next? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. If you want to continue your musical journey, What is a Guitar is linked on the screen now. Thanks for watching, keep discovering, and see you next time.